Brendan Brown joins us now. Brendan, welcome. How are you?
Mike, it's great to be with you in the new year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you. All right, let's get to the Knicks. Clearly the story in Texas, as shocking as it was Shumpert. I mean, the light went on for whatever reason after hearing trade rumors and playing badly and, not seeming like he was that interested. All of a sudden, Shumpert played great.
Yeah, I think there was two things that happened there that kind of made that happen. Number one, he was very aggressive early in the game in San Antonio, and he's pushing the ball up the floor. If nothing was there, at least he was forcing the issue. That helped the Knicks get their offense going before San Antonio's defense got set up. And to make a couple shots early in that game really got him cooking. And then I also think the big lineup kind of suits him, where he's always on that weak side of the floor. Usually it's the weak side corner, but he can be at the weak side arc, and he's kind of forced to shoot. Because with the big lineup, with Anthony throwing the ball out of the post, if Bargnani and Chandler throw it around, there's not a lot of other options to shoot. Udrih doesn't always look to. So he's almost like forced in a position where he had to get going, and because he played well early in some of those games, it just flowed that way.
There was a couple of things going on here. Number one, there was a real feeling that Anthony was going to be very resistant to the big lineup. But I think he's finally looked at the personnel and I guess given in that he's got to give in to the big lineup, right? I mean, it just became personnel-wise, they had to play the big lineup.
Well, I think that Mike Woodson's kind of determined to play the big lineup for a couple of different reasons. He likes that style. He likes the rugged pace. The fact that the team played so fast last year and shot all those threes in transition. If you look back to the way that Mike Woodson's teams played in Atlanta, it was more with a big lineup sort of a look. So I think that Anthony's accepted that. I think he's doing a really good job of figuring out the double teams. Not a lot of teams have been doubling him quickly. They've been coming a lot later or, at the very last moment, and that makes his decision-making with the passes a lot different, and Shumpert, as well as a couple other guys, have been able to deliver.
Now, clearly, one of the things, and Shumpert can, and the Knicks had hoped he could, play some defense against some of these points. Clearly, the Knicks' problem against these point guards in this league, now, ironically, you figured in San Antonio they'd run into as quick a guy and as good a guy as there is. He had a bad game, but the points have been killing them. In the short term, in your mind, does it have to be Shumpert who defensively answers the bell there for them?
Yeah, I think in tonight's game, Mike, that Shumpert naturally would start on Jennings, and I think it's an easy flip-flop that the point guard would go over to a rookie who's in the shooting guard position for Detroit. But it's interesting the way that you're pointing this out, because it wasn't until recently that Shumpert started guarding the points. You would have thought that he was guarding the points all season long, and he did not. And, he can guard, either the point guard, the shooting guard, or the small forward like he did, let's say, against Indiana with Paul George. So he always has the toughest assignment, and sometimes you got to think that some of his effort, some of his energy, some of the physical contact and the chasing around of these guys has got to affect his offense a little bit.
Well, what do you think's been going on with Shumpert, though? I mean, it seems like this year they had such high expectations. I'd heard that they were pushing him in practice to guard the point, and he was resistant. I mean, you wonder what's true and what's not true about Shumpert and why he was having such a difficult time fitting in this year.
Yeah, I think that he's a naturally very competitive kid. I think some of that is he's athletically competitive. He's a high-level athlete. I mean, he is in that
no question
that group in the NBA of elite athletes. He is that good, especially after he's been in the game for a couple of minutes. So I think that some of his adjustment or some of the things that have been most troubling or the decision-making, that's actually come on the offensive end of the floor.
Right. Well, yeah, he played 22 minutes and not make a shot. I mean, take a shot. It would be crazy.
Yeah, I was about to say, not to take a shot or, even the other night in Dallas, even though the ball wasn't going his way, he still only had taken 3 shots through the first 3 quarters. So I think sometimes him wanting to shoot the ball or being in position to shoot the ball to let it go has been a question. But, then you see what he did in San Antonio and Houston, you say to yourself, well, not that he's going to score 26 and 27 every night, but could he get 12 or 14? Like, that would be huge for this team.
Well, here's the other question. Can the Knicks, and we're talking with Brendan Brown, on a night where they have Chandler, and they don't have Chandler tonight, he's out, okay, so he's not playing. But when they have Chandler and they go to big lineup, can they, in your mind, can they play meaningful minutes with Shumpert and Hardaway in the backcourt?
That's a look. With all the different point guard injuries and point guard problems, I've thought that could always be an option for Mike Woodson, being that in Shumpert's rookie year, he did play at the point and played pretty well at the point, pretty successfully.
That gives him a lot longer team when you think about it. It really does.
So I've always kept that in my analysis of what's going on as the wild card, that if he wants to steal a couple minutes and put Shumpert over there, that's a possibility. But maybe that's sensory overload. Like, you got the guy guarding ones, twos, and threes on defense.
Right.
You have him trying to shoot threes. Then you want him to run the offense as a point guard. Like, is that too much for him? But I think it's still always a viable option for a couple of minutes, and we've seen it just a couple of times for about 3-4 minutes in the game where Mike Woodson was just trying to steal some minutes, and it wasn't half bad. So, that kind of versatility is great to have have the ability to do that.